WhatsApp, FB, and LinkedIn link in the chat box to get updates on weekly basis and join us in creating more leaders. Also, we request all our members and visitors to turn on your videos, which will help us in making this episode highly interactive. So, are we all ready to interact with our guest, Mr. Ravi, CEO at India Factoring and Finance Solutions Private Limited, on the topic of managing economic uncertainty? Then please type yes in the chat box. I guess some people are already ready with typing yes. I'm waiting for a few more yeses to come across. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. So before the introduction of the guest, let me also take the privilege to introduce founder of Leaders Connect, Mr. Prakash Sharma, who will have an interaction with our guest along with the panel discussion leader. I shall welcome you all.
Hey, hi, Archana. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Prakash will be joining us very shortly. And thanks for this great curtain raising, Archana. And I welcome you all to this special episode today. I welcome Mr. Ravi, our guest of honor, and I welcome Mr. Parthasarathy, our panel discussion leader, also for this particular episode. Thank you so much, Archana. Thanks. Before starting the episode, I would like to play an introduction video of our guest and as well as the panel discussion leader. So let me have a privilege to share the video. Thank you. Yes, I believe the introduction video of our guest and panel discussion leader have given more interesting facts about both of them. So I hand over the session to Mr. Parthasarathy for a quick panel discussion with our guest, Mr. Ravi. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ravi. A very happy evening to everyone, and we are very happy to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Valecha, and others also. So, shall we move to the session, sir? Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Partha. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks, Prakash, yes, for also inviting me on this panel discussion, and I'm happy to take it forward.
Sure, sir. So we have some couple of questions in this session. Okay, so let me ask them again, and then we can go on next one. Yeah, first thing is actually during the times of economic uncertainty, overall spending might drop, unemployment could climb, and the stock prices can go up and down. So, is there any possible ways to be cautious about uncertainty or any ideas to manage the situation, sir, from your point of view?
Yeah, thanks, Partha, for that question. I'll step back and deep dive into what is the uncertainty and how we have to deal with it. So as before the pandemic struck in 2020 early, the world was in a steady phase. Everything was fine, And as you know, the pandemic was, this pandemic has affected the world after around about 100 years or so. So nobody in our living experience, none of the people who are present on the earth today have ever experienced this sort of a scale of pandemic ever. Of course, there have been some epidemic sort of, things at various places, be it Africa in some countries, be it somewhere else or so. This have been there, but this scale was engulfed across the world, and that's why it is called pandemic. And this nobody had seen. So after the emergence of COVID and or in and around that period, before that also there have been various uncertainties which were plaguing the world across the length and breadth, right? So therein there was an interesting word or an acronym which was coined, which is called a VUCA world, VUCA, which is nothing but a volatile, uncertainty, complex, and ambiguous, right? So these are the short forms or acronym which is there, which is being prevalent or taking shape since 2019 or maybe in 18 also. So with the emergence of possibly the US trade wars, US-China trade wars. So today's scenario is that, we are in this VUCA world, and everything which we are going through is something which is unexpected, unprecedented to the scale. So this is the fact of the life from here on, that this certainty, this situation will prevail for a quite long time, be it pandemic, be it immediately after pandemic. We have seen the global uncertainties due to the war in Europe and Russia, or Ukraine and Russia. So, and we are seeing what's happening in China, Taiwan, and possibly US trade wars, what is going on across the world. So these impacts are global in nature. Today, the world is no longer, isolated from the occurrences, or any country is isolated from the occurrences of the something else in the other part of the world, because the world is so interconnected, because of the supply chains being entrenched, because of various other things being, now we are communicating on the web now, right? So everything is well connected. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some international audience also on this panel itself. So this is where the entire connection is there, and that's where the uncertainties will prevail. So how do you deal with it? First thing first is that, you need to accept that this is a VUCA world, and where we live, these things will be there, occurrences will be there, and how you take it forward is how you react to it. So whether we react to it, or we preempt, or we plan as per the uncertainties which are going to be there. So once you accept the realities that this is a situation, we are seeing every now and then certain things being discussed, some layoff being announced, some recession trends being announced. But if we can face the pandemic, who could have anticipated at the beginning of pandemic that India would, before the pandemic or just about the start of pandemic, and there were global, people or organizations, be it UN or be it any other organization of the repute, were discrediting India, that India will be the worst affected because of the, the population, the scale of population, and the medical facilities not being there after the mark. But now, when the hindsight, everything looks fine, right? So yes, we did have impact. People did have impact. There were losses of life. There were losses of jobs. There were losses of innumerable things. But the steadfastness of the Indians, particularly, has proven time and again. I would, here like to appreciate also the entrepreneurs in India, where we were possibly less than, we were not having enough production to support the local requirement on PPE kits or mask or anything else. But within 3 months, I think we were net exporters of these kits, right? So this is the resilience of the entrepreneurs in India. This is the resilience of the, what we call essentially in layman term called a jugaad mentality, right? And this mentality has actually helped us thrive in these uncertain worlds. For Indians, this uncertainty is a given fact. For the Western world, developed world, these uncertainties have not been there. The inflations across the world, most of the European countries and even in US have been possibly lower than 1% across, as long as I could remember, possibly even 20, 25 years. But in India, the inflation is a given 6% is there annually, right? So we as Indians are possibly more accustomed to living in an uncertain and an ever inflationary trends. So I think we are better capacitized. And once we accept the situation that what is affecting the global is not something new to Indians, I think the first step is accepting that this is a trend which is going to be there, and preempting those scenarios is something which you need to work on. Have these contingencies in your plan already built in, and that takes care of the things. I hope I could broadly explain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're right, sir. As Buddha said, accept the pain, and then only we can do something, right? Excellent, excellent, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So let me ask some other questions, sir. According to the experience, so can you explain about the effects of uncertainty on the Indian economy, sir? Specifically.
Okay, yeah. So being specifics now, obviously the Indian economy went through its turn. Now, if we were before 2000s or before 1990s, India was a largely isolated economy, right? We didn't have, we of course always had a dependencies, and even today we have dependency on imports, largely from the oil perspective, because there is no much production in India. However, from an exports or a global perspective, India was more isolated or operating in the silos before 1990s. But after the initiatives and reforms carried out from 1990s from the current account convertibility and other financial sector reforms, I think things shaped up, and there on the first stepping stones for global interconnectivity was laid. And from there on, the what's happening across the world has started impacting Indian markets also. So in today's context, what we saw also in the recent scenarios, we have seen the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009. Thereafter, again, some impact of 2017, 2013. And now we have seen the pandemic across the world. And after this, the war situation across the world, which is going on, that's also having some impact on the Indian economy. Having said so,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah. Having said so, there is, these impacts is going to be there, and we need to accept that. So the global economists of the repute, be it UN and other bodies who are observing India, they initially downgraded even this year the GDP estimates to an extent. However, the latest the UN report or the World Bank report, which is there, IMF report, which states that they have upgraded to an extent that the GDP numbers also. So that tells the story that India, amongst all the global world, is in a sweet spot. There might be an odd impact which will affect in the short term, but over a medium term and a longer term, I think India is to gain from the happenings in the world, and possibly we are fifth largest economy today, crossing 3 trillion economy, right? And the projections,
Yes,
what the government and other bodies and everybody and organizations like us are also working towards the goal of a 5 trillion economy by 2025 or so. And I'm sure that that is going to happen possibly earlier than that. Even on the other aspects, be it the climate change and other aspects also, I think there is a huge possibility that India is way ahead on few aspects. I'm sure that there are some certain aspects which India lags, but on certain aspects, India is way ahead on the reforms and on the economic perspectives. Just a case in example. I come from a financial services, so I'll share a financial services example.
Sure.
UPI or the payments, right?
Yes, sir.
A few years back, most of it was cash, possibly credit cards and other internet banking. Today, UPI is possibly the largest transaction oriented. Most of the people are using, even for auto walas and cab people everywhere. We are using this UPI mechanism, right? So
Yes,
from that perspective, on the payment side, I think India is leading to the great extent, if not the leader, which I believe possibly is a leader itself. So many aspects, India is leading these initiatives, and I believe that India is in sweet spot. There will be odd impacts, hiccups, which will continue to prevail. But I think India is well positioned to tide over these certain small issues.
Very good, sir. I would like to add some more input in your point. Actually, I recently I saw an announcement, an article They said maybe 20% or 10% transaction in that NEFT, but amount is a huge level. At the same time, UPI payment is up to 50%, but number of transactions high actually. So that's it. Okay, very good, sir. Very good, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So let me ask one more question. And one more thing, since I'm from Tamil Nadu government is taking initiative to achieve the $1 trillion. So we'll,
Yeah.
I believe we'll achieve it. Thank you,
Absolutely.
sir. And the next question is, I'd like to ask about a phrase, uncertainty increases faster than it decreases. So from your point of view, sir, about this phrase.
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty increases faster than it decreases.
Yeah, I mean, see, uncertainty, because increases faster than obviously decreases. What we have seen, use the case of pandemic itself, right? 2020, it was all of a sudden, right? Nobody,
Yes,
it was not something which was something in making for years. It possibly developed overnight, and possibly in 3 months' time, the world was, I mean, the occurrence of first virus infection in China possibly was somewhere in late to 2019, right?
Yes,
And by March 2020, the entire world had almost gone into a lockdown mode. So this is a very shortest period that's where the uncertainty arose. In March, on actually when we went into lockdown on March 23rd, 2020, we didn't know what tomorrow held, right? There was uncertainty. The shops were, the shelves of the shops were empty, right? You and I
Yes,
and everybody else also faced the situation that from overnight, running, in a smooth manner, everything was working fine. And overnight, we were running across to the grocery store, piling up the stocks. There was a rumors, whatnot, that this is going to be shortage, that is going to be shortage. I even heard a rumor called salt is going to be shortage. Now, and like that, various other, things were out of stock for most common people. But we saw that in that situation, the uncertainty came in suddenly. However, over a period of time, people understood the how to deal with this complex situation. So it's an interesting phrase which is long used, that human beings as a nature, we are, what we fear collectively is uncertainty.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That is the biggest fear of humans, because everything, when you first encounter, you are uncertain, and that's what fears us the most. And that throughout the history, we have seen across the trend, when planes were initiated, possibly in early 20th, early 19th century, early to 1900s, people said, okay, how can you fly, right? So
Yes,
there
sir.
was a huge amount of fear. However, once you understood the situation, once you accepted the reality, and the acceptance started gaining shape, and today we are seeing that in India also, the travel is the more, plane travel is the most common mode of travel, right? So
Yes, sir.
once you accept that uncertainty, the situation becomes more palatable. You are able to control that situation and manage that situation. So yes, uncertainty rises very fast, but decreases slowly, is because possibly the acceptance of the people over a period of time. With acceptance comes the fact that how do you tackle it, right?
Exactly,
And
sir.
understand the situation. Even in pandemic, the Indian government took initiatives. The corporates like the Serum Institute and other industries in that similar area who develop vaccines, they took initiatives to develop. Who could have thought that within 6 months or 9 months period, they could come up with a vaccine, which historically has taken years, possibly 2 decades or so of research and development. So they came up with the best possible situation in the given situation, right? So
Yes,
this
sir.
is where the uncertainty pushes human beings to use their mind and their resources to come up with the innovative solutions. So by far, I would say accept the uncertainty. Once you accept it, you will be able to move across to the known situation and possibly derive a solution-oriented approach.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. So, and the thing is, one question, being IT person, I would like to ask a question from my point of view. Being IT person and then that becoming a business leader, I would like to ask. Thing is, and I'd like to get and share your suggestions and recommendations to our Indian IT industry and then IT business leaders to how to tackle and manage economic uncertainties.
So, okay, now IT is to me a saving, enabler, I would say. Again, using the pandemic, I come up from a financial services background, banking and financial services. So from that point of view, we are a heavy users of IT.
Yes, sir.
However, believe me, this requirement of BCP, it's an annual or a possibly 6-monthly exercise, which all organizations take at any point of time. One fine day, the call will come to you, okay, stay home, possibly they'll test out the situation. This has been the matter, I think, ever since early 2000s, possibly from Y2K days or so.
Yes,
That
I
was the
remember.
BCP. Now, in my life, in my entire career, I could have never imagined that I will work from home for such a long duration of time. And believe me, IT proved that, that you can do it. And
Yes, thank you.
today we are in a situation where people want to work from home, right?
Yes, sir.
Everything is being told. So I don't think that IT people need any guidance that how to come out of the economic situation. IT is the enabler, a key enabler for all economic perspectives, and IT companies are well positioned to move into, and Indian IT is the leader in all spaces. What I would want to see is the emergence of product development in India.
Yeah.
And obviously you would agree to that India has been to an extent lagging in that field, which I believe sooner than later, we will be in a position to, capitalize also. And that's my only take on the IT perspective. But I think we are doing fantastic in IT space. We continue to be leaders even after 2 decades. Starting from in early 2000s or even earlier than that, I think we will continue to ride that wave because of the same, the solution-oriented approach which most of the Indians and Indian IT companies adapt. That for every problem there is a solution, and I'm reasonably sure that the IT companies and including other companies also, other sectors as well, will tide over the situation.
Fine, sir. Fine. Very happy to hear about it from you, sir. Thank you. And we have one last question, sir. Does your sector faced or affected by any economic downturn, sir?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Does your sector faced or affected by any economic downturn, sir?
Yes. So my sector is financial services, obviously. So whatever happens to the industry and other sectors does impact the financial services also. But yes, we saw in pandemic, the financial services and RBI took its measure, the regulator took its measures for forbearances and various, initiatives or reforms or control, measures which will allow the customers, the end customers, to tide over the financial hiccups which everyone faced because the income had died down. So I believe that that phase is over, and that phase was well controlled by the regulators, RBI, and across the world also by the other regulators as well. So that situation is very much in control, and what affects the entire world affects the financial services, possibly affects the financial services one step earlier than anybody else. But as I said, that what affects, once you find a solution to it, I think you are able to overcome that situation also.
Very good, very good, very good, sir. Will do, sir. Thank you, sir. I think my set of questions is actually is over, I think.
Okay.
If any questions, then we'll set separate. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, Mr. Arun. Okay. Yeah, take your control.
Great. Thank you very much, Parthasarathy. That was really great, and great questions. And welcome, Ravi, for this Leaders Connect. And thanks very much for joining us today. It was really awesome that you've taken your time in sharing your experiences. So there was, in fact, I was supposed to reach my destination or office and then be ready for this. However, there's a challenge, so I'm here now. So this is also managing those. Nevertheless, thanks very much. So Ravi awesomely discussed an excellent points and views you've shared. It's really great. I just have one question, Ravi, and then we'll also have open questions.
Sure.
So for the other members and visitors who are here, definitely now is the time for open questions to also ask Mr. Ravi, where he'll be able to share his more views. And through the panel discussion later, Mr. Parthasarathy asked his view as well. So there are two ways to ask open questions. So one, either you can raise your hand and our team member, Mr. Arul, will unmute you so that you can directly ask the question to Mr. Ravi, or else kindly share your question on the chat box and the question will be read by us, and then we can raise that question to Mr. Ravi on the same. So with these two ways, you can do that, all the visitors and guests and members who are here. So before that, let me also quickly share to all the people who have joined us today's episode. Our guest of honor, Mr. Ravi Valecha's LinkedIn ID is there on the chat box. And our panel discussion leader, Parthasarathy's also LinkedIn ID is there in the chat box. Feel free to stay connected with them. That will add more value. And me and Ravi Valecha, in fact, we got connected through LinkedIn, and it was very nice that we were able to touch base, and then we were able to join in as such for today's episode as well. So on quick note, before we have one quiz, before the quiz, I have one question, as it was being asked, in fact, by, I just want to extend this. Now, there are a couple of news which is coming up. There is in a couple of more months, there's going to be a recession again, which is going to hit. This recession is going to become another challenge for us. So what's your view or take on this, Mr. Ravi? So what do you think on this?
No, so as I said, the recession is a situation which is a reality. Yes, it is going to be there, but and it is already being seen in US and European markets. Now, does it impact us? Yes, to an extent, yes, because as I said, we are no longer an isolated country, or respective companies are also not isolated. We have interdependencies across the world. And what affects the world affects us in some small manner. However, to give you a perspective, and we have seen there have been layoffs in numbers and thousands of numbers with various MNCs, with various Indian companies, with various new age technology companies and whatnot, right? Now, so that's a reality which is there. But is it going to be impacting us in that manner, what it is impacting US and the European markets? Possibly no. The reason I have also stated that the inflation is the main contributor of the recession, and possibly on the back of COVID, right? During COVID, most of the developed economies, amongst other forbearance measures or financial measures undertaken, they gave out freebies to the people across length and breadth, right? They gave out actual cash payouts. So these are considered freebies to tide over. Now, what happened with that freebies was that people were sitting at home, not much productive, but they were getting enough or more than enough cash in hand. So people were actually, it was well over and above the requirement of the sustenance, that is food and clothing, right? So people were actually saving those money and splurging that money on non-essentials, possibly luxury items also. But most of it was into the savings. So after the death of COVID, or the downtrend, we haven't seen really the death of COVID right now, but yes, the scale down of COVID, this dried up from the regulators, right? That forbearance and other cash measures and all those things. So that went into, you can say, and that went into the recession part, that, the spending decreased. Now, when you reduce the spending, then there is a increase in supplies more and other things which happen. So to curtail all these economic measures, the regulators started increasing the rates to cut down on the inflation, the rising cost, which was there prevailing now. And we saw also the disruption of the supply chain across the world, right? Even for a want of one chip, the entire car is ready, but for one small chip, the car cannot be delivered to the customer because it is not usable. So this was a disruption which we have seen during the pandemic affecting the world across. And this led to the inflationary trends and various other things going out of the hand. To put these things in control, the regulators across the world are starting to increase the rates, right? And the rate at which customers borrow. which will possibly reduce the but having said so, the inflation is still there. Inflation across the world is still prevalent. The global world has not seen this level of inflation across, possibly I shared 20 years or maybe 2 decades or so, be primarily US and European markets. In India, we have been used to inflationary trends for as many years as I can think of. So it's not something new. In this space also, there is a shortage which is there emerging from the markets from China. China till now has been the largest supplier for anything and everything today, right? So India from that perspective is expected to be benefiting because the demand, say suppose the world was procuring something worth 100, I don't want to name a currency also, just a very hypothetical thing, 100 value of 100 they were procuring. So and India's contribution in that possibly was say 10, okay, and China was contributing say 40. Okay. Now, in that world of procurement of 100, the world, due to recessionary trends, possibly it will come down to say 75 or maybe 80, right? So that's a drop of 20. However, and China may see possibly a drop of 20 or so again, right?
True.
So from that perspective, India's contribution to that is not going to be 7 or 8. It is possibly going to be 12 or 15. So overall economic output point of view, the India's contribution is going to rise because of the domestic, because of the world relying more on India from a global sourcing perspective, be it any sectors or so. So from that perspective, I am confident that a recession will not impact to that extent what it will impact the Western world. So India should be in the sweet spot. And we are seeing that trend also, that India could be in the sweet spot to capitalize on that matter, and recession will not have a very drastic impact. It will have odd impact on the person who gets impacted directly because of layoff. There is 100% impact, but I'm talking more from an overall perspective that the impact will be limited, right? So I'm not talking individually that one person may not get impacted, but it's the global or the Indian scenario is going to be a little bit ring fenced to that extent. I hope I could address that.
Yes, wonderfully, awesomely shared. In fact, definitely, as you rightly shared, when it gives us more confidence, in fact, the more you're saying that it's not going to really impact much. I'm sure most of the other leaders or who are here in this room forum also would really agree by that. And really, we'll be able to start spreading such messages to people, then we'll be able to see on the safer side where we are looking at. Awesome, Mr. Ravi Valecha. So now we'll just take 2 minutes and we will take a small quiz of what all we've been discussed and asked. So I will just take 2 minutes and we'll have a quiz. This quiz is for all the members and visitors who are here listening to the guest of honor. So all the members and visitors, this quiz is for you. And the fastest fingers first. So the person who's going to answer the right one and the chat box, we have the Mask Leadership's book or the 360-degree assessment is going to be as complimentary, which will be receiving it. So for asking the quiz, I would request Mr. Nagaraju from Lactalis India to quickly take up the quiz. And what's that question which he would like to ask all our members and visitors? Yes, Nagaraju, over to you.
Hi, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And very good evening to Ravi, sir, and Parthasarathy, sir. And taking forward from last 1 hour to so far, we are providing so many of insights to everyone. And then coming to my question is, what is the India inflation rate?
Perfect. So what is the current India inflation rate is the question. Okay, for people who are going to answer quickly. Okay, people answers are coming out one by one. Okay, 3, 4 in the chat box. So Nagaraj, if you can see in the chat box, who's the first one who has been attending or sharing it?
Yes, sir. Mr. Devarayan is the first person.
Oh, Devarayan. So consecutive 2 weeks, Devarayan. Appreciated. Wonderful. Awesome, Devarayan. So that's again, you'll be receiving it. Last time also we have shared and we're yet to discuss. Congratulations once again, Devarayan. Good one, superb. Let's clap hands for Mr. Devarayan for being the winner for this Mask Leaderships event. So Devarayan, we will discuss because both you already received, like last week I told. Also, one you received the assessment as well as you also received the book. So this time I'm going to give you something new, Devarayan, for doing and attending last week also and this week also together. So to
We'll
go with
keep
the
adding
plan.
on. We'll keep add on. Not a problem. Good. Good. It's great pleasure.
Thanks, Devarayan. So members and visitors, so now is the time for asking open questions to Mr. Ravi. And any questions you have, as I said, two ways of asking questions. And after this, even Mr. Pankaj Vyas also will be taking care of it. From there, he will be able to move forward. And after the open questions are there as well. So either way, you can write. So I believe one question is already there in the chat box. If you can just see. Mr. Pankaj, will you be able to read the question for us that will add value? You're in?
Just a minute, Prakash. Let me have a look to that.
On the chat box. So
Curious to know, Anant Kumar had asked, Mr. Anant Kumar N. Curious
yes.
to know if the recession will prevail or short term or long term.
Okay. So Mr. Ravi, there's a similar question, but he's talking a bit about the recession, which will be prevailing for a short term or a long term is the question.
I cannot prophesize that thing, but definitely it will be there prevailing in 2023. Even the biggest of the economists possibly will not be able to address that question because it's a very, very prophetic sort of a thing, which anybody will not delve into, and nobody can comment on that thing. But yes, in the short term, it is going to be there, and as I said, it is not going to be impacting the Indian outlook to a great extent. So yes, early 2023, 3 to 6 months definitely until the war situation in Ukraine and Russia, tides over. Till that time, possibly there could be situation which will prevail, and it does.
True. Awesome, wonderfully shared. So definitely it's going to be that now. So Pankaj, over to you. Maybe you can also take the other set of questions, and then from there we will be able to come to a summary a role of what we need to be doing. So yes, any other open questions before we give it to Pankaj? Sorry, Pankaj. Any other open questions? Please bring.
Yes, I have. Shall I ask one question, sir? Sir, I would like to know the impact of digital rupee in the Indian economy, sir.
Yes, in fact, India is amongst the very few nations who have come up with the digital rupee, right? Yes, so sir. I think it's a right direction. It's a very positive direction which the regulator is taking shape. But something as disruptive as what we are seeing, the digital currency, we saw what digital currency in the shape of cryptocurrency can do. That it was very highly speculative. And possibly many investors who were there in the cryptocurrencies possibly got affected over a period of time. However, this is going to be completely different, and this is going to be a disruptive that one of the regulator has initiated in this sort of an initiative, and I believe this could be a huge contributor from further contribution of digital inroads which Indian banking and financial services can make. So yes, there will be definitely huge positive impact of the digital currency to the Indian economies and possibly taking it further to the world economy. And future, we are already reading that UPI is something which the global world leaders are showing interest in. Middle East for sure is possibly evaluating how they can implement UPI, something similar to UPI, and possibly also accept Indian rupees. So it can be a huge contribution to Indian economy. I'm sure about that.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Yeah, Prakash, you can.
Yes. Pankaj, over to you, Pankaj.
Okay, thank you, Prakash. So I believe we have one more question from Mr. Tarun Kohli, right? So Tarun Kohli asked, will global inflation situation improve in 2024? Or you expect as of today, high inflation trend worldwide will continue in 2024 as well?
how will be overall economic situation in India according to you in 2023, 2025?
So 2023, we know that there is going to be some sort of an impact which we will see. One is from a global perspective and one is from an India perspective. India perspective, I think the Indian economy, the domestic consumption itself is good enough, which will prevail and continue to prevail for 2023. Second half of 2023, we may see some impact from the global recessionary trends, which could be possibly impacting us. Once the larger part of things will depend on the Ukraine-Russia and the involvement of the world on that war scenario. If the war scenario escalates, you know how situation can turn bad also. But if that scenario goes to rest and stops completely, it will add a huge sentimental value on the positive side. And similarly, other geopolitical situations, we saw India's skirmish with China, China's skirmish with Taiwan, and few of these instances. So obviously, all these situations, if they go out of hand, then it could contribute further to the recessionary trends. However, let's hope that these do not occur. We continue to live in an optimistic world, and let's continue to live in that scenario that all things that ends well. So let's focus on that aspect, that hopefully the issues do not go beyond second half of 2023. But of course, as I said, I'm not a prophet, so I cannot completely prophesize at this point of time and forecast about future and how it is going to be impacting. Only things I can comment about is what I hear from the economists, global economies, the global numbers which come out. The numbers so far in India context remain stable. Global situation, yes, there are concerns, but let's see how the situation continues to be in future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Valecha, for putting it simply for people like us. Although these are the global standard things, but putting it in simple manner. Thank you so much for your wonderful insight.
Thanks.
So I believe we are almost done with all the open questions. So before we move forward, I would like to take this opportunity to call Mr. Senthil Kumar as our summary leader, and Mr. Senthil will summarize the overall episode what we had with Mr. Valecha. So over to you, Mr. Senthil.
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Thanks for this opportunity. And today's session on economy, which is the most important topic for the each and every family and each and every business, was really a goosebump for everyone who would have thoroughly enjoyed this session. Now, as time is pressing, let me introduce myself. This is Senthil here from Daimler India Commercial working as a senior manager for learning and development. Presently, I've been a part of this Leaders Connect since from the day one of the first session. And today I play a role of this summary to give a gist about the interaction what we had the past 40 minutes. Coming to the summarizing point, this pandemic taught us about what is VUCA, and VUCA where we need to have a flexibility in terms of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And all that is required is we need to accept this VUCA, and all it matters is how we react or respond to this VUCA situation. And at the end of the day, we need to have a jugaad mentality and with the flexibility to face the global uncertainty. The best example is like a UPI transaction. When it started, it came with many stress, and later it transformed into the robust process where even the auto wallahs and the markets everywhere started using this UPI transaction. And there was in the pandemic situation, there were rumors that even a salt would run shortage, and we were able to overcome such kind of a fear situation and those kind of a rumor situation in tackling them with a strong pace of mind. And no one expected or no one predicted that India would overcome or recover from this COVID situation with a short span of 6 months, where the vaccines have been pumping everywhere in the part of the city in over a period of 6 months' time. And other thing is coming to the IT impact of this uncertainty of during COVID is the best example. No one predicted that Zoom or Google Meet, this kind of classroom session would happen, where this Zoom and Google Meet were real enablers in this VUCA world, and coming up with the online classes same as the for working people, it was like work from home option, and today it has transformed into a hybrid model. Now coming to the India current inflation, it comes at 6%, and we see the impact of the digital currency as with a positive trend in our future in India. And coming to the India domestic market, which is really doing good in 2023 beginning, and this would change or fluctuate depending upon the war situation, which is expected in a second half of 2023. These are some of the key glimpses what I could able to share here for the benefit of the team here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Senthil, for summarizing the overall episode. And it was really nice putting it in simple terms. And, in just a couple of minutes, you have summarized the entire episode. So thank you so much for your insight. So here I take this opportunity to call Mr. Nellai Naigam to give the vote of thanks to our guests and participants for today. So over to you.
Pankaj Devran here. Sorry for the interruption. Actually, I would like to give the quiz gift to Mr. Tarun, who has come next to me, because so last week also I stood this thing, right? So I just wanted to give this to Mr. Tarun.
Okay. Thank you so much for Devra.
Because he deserves it.
Okay. Thank you for a nice gesture. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So Tarun Kohli sir, this is for you from Mr. Dev Ryan. Right. Okay, thank you so much. So over to you, Mr. Nellai, for word of thanks. Thank you so much.
Good evening, one and all. Thanks to Bija Training for this opportunity. Dear Mr. Ravi Valecha, a really wonderful session with more key points to manage the VUCA world. As you mentioned that Indians are really adaptive for the uncertainty, and we will overcome this limited impact. Before me sharing about the next week, let me quickly share again the purpose of this community. If you find our episode interesting, kindly invite your contacts who will add value to this community. For the visitors who are attending the first time, Leaders Connect 360 is a hybrid model leadership community where every week on Wednesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. we invite a top management leader from a reputed corporate company to share the solutions for our real-time leadership challenges, either on leading self, leading others, or leading your business, like how you have seen Mr. Ravi Valecha today. So now I'm happy to share about our next week episode. The last Wednesday of every month has always been a reflection episode with the TML thumb rules with a practical session. The thumb rule for next week: all the human beings are good. Our perception towards the people must be positive. Join us next week, 28th December 2022, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. Zoom live to discuss deeper about TML thumb rule. Kindly join us our social media platforms to receive weekly episode registration link and updates. Members who wish to be a panel discussion can give your names on the WhatsApp group or kindly interact with Mr. Arul. I would like to thank the guest, Mr. Ravi Valecha, for spending his valuable time in sharing his experiences and solutions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting. I'm glad to share the small insights. I definitely learned a lot from your questions also, because those questions are thought-provoking and allows us to think a little bit deeper, right? So thank you so much.
So thank you, Mr. Nellai, for word of thanks, and thank you, Mr. Ravi Valecha, for thanking video. So Arul, if you can play the thanking video for all of us. Thank you, Arul. Thank you for the video. Thank you all the visitors for making this a wonderful episode. And here we are going to have our networking. So people who wish to stay back can stay and introduce themselves so that we can check for ourselves how best we can